pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Buddy. Right to number 3, discuss, approve, disapprove distribution of investment funds. Liz, I will let you take.
So what this item is that what we're talking about is that there is an investment account that was set up in your accounting system for $1 million. And over time, what's happened is that the general fund is showing a negative cash because of that, because of the $1 million was taken out of the general fund cash balance. And so for best practices for cities, for pooled cash and investments, you would have, and in your case, you have one bank account. You don't have a bank account for every fund, right? So you have one bank account where all the money sits. And that money then really is prorated across the funds. So the interest that you earn goes into that fund and then it's prorated across the funds. And so what had happened is that there was a split when that $1 million of investments was taken out. So it should have been prorated across the different funds. And so we've got a mismatch between the cash balance, what the true cash balance is, and the investment balance. And so what we would propose is that we would have to take a look at when that happened, how we're going to fix it. And then we would also need to set up, this is accounting lingo, but we would have to set up a pooled cash and investment fund. And so that would be the best practice for cities. And so what the point is, and the point that your auditor made, is that, if you think that you've got $250,000 in the fire fund, you may not have that much, right? You may not have $100,000 in your parks fund because of that negative. And so what we need to do is we need to take a look at what happened and then how to fix it. And so we would propose is that if you give us the go-ahead tonight, what we would do is that we would go back, my colleague and I would determine how we were going to go about this, and we would give you a proposal that you could consider at another council meeting, and then you could determine if you wanted us to.
So with a pooled investment fund, it would still remain as an investment,
Correct?
but it would show the percentage of each fund.
Correct. Because right now, if you look in your financial statements, there is, for the general fund only, there is a large negative cash balance and there's $1 million sitting in investments. And that's not something that you would typically see. And so once we do this, this would be bringing you in line with best practices for cities. It would also give you a truer balance of what you have in your funds. So that's why we would propose to do that.
I think because it's just an accounting reset.
Correct.
And I think it would be a good idea to do it that way. Like you said, you'll actually know what's in your fund per se. And none of the funds, except the general fund, are as high as it states on there, and the general fund definitely is not as low as it states.
Potentially, yeah.
So
we really need to figure out what the true cash balances are in the fund.
So it'd be like saying like this, pick the park fund. There's the cash balance in the regular checking, right? Have part of that fund be what's attributed into the actual investment fund. So they'll show on that balance of what the fund itself has, but part of it's in one account and part of it's in the investment account.
Correct.
And then we just won't be showing, because I think what you're saying is we levied these dollars, brought them in, but then some of them got rolled into, but they didn't got thrown into that account and didn't have those distribution balances maintained from the get-go, from when the money was brought into the town.
Correct.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Well, that's what they're gonna figure out in their research if they.
Joan, when you get interest from the investment, do you distribute that? I'm thinking you distribute it across the fund, right?
Everyone that.
Goes right into the general?
We left it in there.
Okay, all right, I just
I
wonder.
think roughly it was 43,000, 4.3%. I believe.
So everything's in here. Investments.
Yeah.
Okay,
Nope, I think that's a good idea. Approve. So you would come back with a proposal to do the work that we would approve.
At a future meeting, I don't know. The goal would be to get this done for your fiscal year end.
Proposal.
Yes.
We'll Prove it, that step, then
For your financial statements, it may not be necessarily ready by 12/31. But be ready by-
I'll make a motion to approve them coming up with a proposal to help us.
I'll second that.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. 4, review 2025 budget line items for each fund. Anything that's glaring.
Well, so I would like to direct your attention to this portion of the packet. And so you've seen this before, and what this is this is just our updated financial management plan that we've been working with for quite some time. And what I have done since the last meeting is that I took under your directions to reduce the levy. So we reduced the levy by 90,000. Some of the levies had to be shuffled in order to make sure that the general fund is maintained. So what I'm referring to is if on the first page, if you go down to line 42 and you see that dark blue line, that unassigned. So in the final 2024 column, your general fund was 63,340. That compares to 2 years previous when it was 845,000. No, this is your fund balance. So this is the long running history of all the revenues that you've taken in over time and everything that you've spent over time. So what's happened is that, through the incorporation and other actions is that the general fund has decreased to a very low level. So it's only at 14% of your next year's expenditures. And the OSA recommends that it should be between 35 and 50% of your next year's expenditures. And your ending fund balance is really important because you need to have sufficient funds at December 31st in order to cash flow your operations for the first 6 months of the year because you get your first half taxes in July. So that's why fund balance is important. So then conversely, what I needed to do is, okay, so let's look at the year-to-date column. It's the gray column for year-to-date 2025. And so when you look at it, if you look at the revised expenditure budget, the revised expenditure budget was $636,000, but $888 has been spent year to date. Okay. So then when we look down at what your fund balance is right now, it's at $194,000, which is only 24% of next year's expenditures. So this is still too low. So another reason why fund balance is important is that rating agencies will look at this. So that when you get to the point where you need to issue a bond for streets or for your fire truck, the rating agencies will look at what your fund balance is. And so it's important to have a healthy fund balance. And so those concerns are what's driving the switch to the property tax levy to more weighted to the general fund. And so what I'm trying to do is to get your fund balance up to that 535,000 that you see for preliminary 2026, which is 68% of your next year's expenditures. And so what we're trying to do is to make sure that the city finances overall are healthy. And so that's what's driving some of this levy. So if we turn to the next page, when we look at the percent increase in the total tax levy, and so when we look at the preliminary levy of 1,936,000, which is down by 90,000 from the original proposed levy of 2,026,000, that is a 10% increase from your 2025 levy. And then in 2025, you actually increased it by 9.75%. So it really is very similar to past history. And when we take a look, most importantly, when we take a look at what is the impact on a median value home, that's on line 83. And so that's the dollar amount that's highlighted in yellow. That's $37 per year as a property tax increase on a median value home. And so that contrasts to the impact in 2025, which was $52, and in 2024 it was $47. Questions, comments?
And that would achieve the 535 or the 60.
Correct.
Well, I mean, that is with, that generated then what this is, correct? These numbers, the 10% increase generated what these funds on this sheet.
No,
So that sheet is actually your preliminary levy that you adopted in September.
Okay.
And that's the 2,026,000 that we originally discussed. And so what we did is that through discussions is we reduced the levy to the 1,936,000. We reduced it by $90,000.
Correct. Said that you distributed through these funds as, or at least rearranged these.
The 1,936,000, yes, I did.
Do we have what those numbers would be? These funds?
that should be the 2026 numbers here, right?
Correct. I didn't create a sheet like that, but if you wanted to, we could run through them. Okay. So the general fund levy then is the 790,400. And then on the second page, we can look at it, lines 53 and down. Okay, so your debt service fund remains at 25,000. Went from 26 to 25. Oh no, I'm sorry.
You got special revenue for the
Yeah,
fire,
the special revenue for the fire.
then you have
Yep,
550 for the road and bridge.
yeah, so the two debt service on lines 53 and 56, that's the 119,644.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so that didn't change. Then we've got this 26,000. That was related to fire relief. The road and bridge fund went to 550 versus the 800. The fire operations remained at 275. Fire infrastructure fund capital went to 100. The park fund went from 90 to 75. And so those are the shifts. And so we can walk through these funds to see how they still balance.
Mr. Mayor, Liz, the special revenue fund for fire can stay at 25. It's only $1,000, but it probably should just stay at 25. I don't see any reason to kick that one. If that's okay with everybody?
That's what you.
No.
No, it was never reduced, that's why just keep it at 2025. It shows 26 on the 2026 budget, so keep it at 25 and not change it. The other thing was the fire fund itself, it's at 275. I think we could reduce that by,
200?
no. I'll never make payroll.
Have it at 200,000?
No, I'll never make payroll. I'll run short.
What's the number?
Well, I was gonna say, if I have done my budget numbers correctly, I would say reduce it from 275 to 240.
So if we could maybe just,
So can I intervene here? So if the fire department was 190 in 2024 and we increased it to 200,000 this year, you're telling me it's $40,000 in wages? I just don't see, every year we increased it 10,000, so why the big jump to 40,000?
We had wage increases this year.
Yeah, and you said that was in the budget.
Can I finish?
Go ahead.
We're paying the assistant chief $1,000 a month. Right there is $12,000 just in his wages. So. So we
So everybody else gets cut but the fire fund.
the
So I take a
original,
parks from 125 down to 90, now I get shaved to 75.
let me finish.
Go ahead.
So you have stated that you don't have anything going on in parks. The fire department has increased in run volume substantially this year. We're gonna go over 400 calls from last year. Whether you like it or not, that's increasing your wages. We went from 350 to 400, that's 50 more calls. You add that up, and it's a variable, we don't know. Okay? The other thing is we have stuff that we have to buy, and that is in that fire fund that originally was at 226,000 that has just been frozen at 100. Okay? I'm just telling you what it is.
Okay, so
So when we don't have any money to pay the firefighters their wages in the spring, we'll talk about it.
okay, well, that's why I asked when the wages were increased, if it was in the budget, you said yes.
Yeah, and I had the money then. I'm
Yeah.
talking for next year.
So when you
And so, hang on,
do the
Joe.
wage increases,
We're losing focus here. You know what I mean? So one thing that we did see, and what Liz has done here, is 590 was what we preliminarily said our general fund was gonna be. 790, Liz has brought it up to. So I think all funds, in order to bring that one up. Now we're saying that the fire can be reduced another roughly $35,000. So if you did reduce that $35,000, that put us like right on the edge.
No, I think so the fire department gets a lot of grants and things like that make it up, but that's always an unknown.
Right,
If we get-
hang on. I'm gonna ask everybody here, please take a deep breath. Please do this, because this absolutely does not need to be ugly. Get through this, everything is gonna be okay, we're gonna find the other side of this. So if you would, Liz, please.
maybe if we could just take a step back and can we walk through these funds and we can go through what the thinking was, and if you get mad, you can get mad at me? Okay,
Don't take that on yourself.
that's fine.
Yes. Let's do this, let's figure out where.
yeah, because the parks need to be 90,000. I have the trails to redo.
Well, and that's okay, Tom. But the bottom line is that is going to increase this 10.15%. Right? So it ain't like we can just say, hey, let's, take 100,000 out of parks and put it to general fund, and it doesn't. Now, if these are indeed the numbers that we need to have, we want to increase, we have the opportunity to do that.
Well, I wanted to decrease even.
No, I don't think we're allowed after September.
No, not over the 15%, but Liz has it down to 10.
Oh, she's
Right,
saying
so-
we approved the 15%.
Preliminary levy was a 15% increase, 15.8. Right, and I know, because I've been getting calls from residents that says, you promised that when we incorporated, your taxes were not gonna go up because we incorporated.
Just, Mr. Mayor, just clarify, the preliminary levy was approved at this amount, correct? Okay, I just want to clarify that that's, but what Liz's
Okay.
proposed is less than that.
Liz, which fund would you like to start with?
Okay, so let's go back to this packet, this one. Okay, and let's go to page 3, which is the fire fund. And we'll just walk through the funds, right? Just to be sure that I have the assumptions correct and we're looking at the balances. So first of all, I'd like to make a comment about taxes increasing. There are a lot of moving pieces in figuring out what property taxes are. There's a lot of pieces that are out of your control. You do not control the assessed value of a home or a business. You do not control how taxes are calculated. You do not control the tax capacity rates, which is set by the legislature. The only thing that you control is the levy, and that's it. Okay? So if somebody's market value goes up and you do not increase the levy, they're gonna pay more, right? So say that you can make sure that somebody's property taxes do not go up is not possible just because of the way that Minnesota property taxes are set up. Okay?
May I make an example? When we had the foreclosures, 08, 10, and residential values plummeted with all the foreclosures up here, commercial properties seen a brunt of the load of the levy because their values stayed up. Pie became a bigger piece of the pie with the drop in all the residential family drop. It hurt a lot, you know, on the backs of the commercial industrial properties at that time. So it's the same kind of thing. Now you've seen relief over the last few years because the residential's gone through the nose in values.
Okay, all right, so then let's look at the fire fund. All right, so our preliminary 2026 levy for the fire fund is the $275,000, and we have other revenues that are accounted for, where we have total revenues of $326,000, and that is compared to our total expenditures of $291,000. So then again, when I'm doing this, I'm taking a look at what the ending fund balance is, and so the ending fund balance in the fire fund at the end of 25 is projected to be 62,000. At the end of 26, it's projected to be 88,000. And you can see where that trend goes over time. So it actually goes, it's decreasing over time to 2029. So if you decrease the levy by 40,000, that is something that's going to have to be made up in the future. Okay.
Yeah, I understand.
So this is my thinking as we go through all of these funds, and then we can take a look at individual funds, and you can tell me if my assumptions are wrong, and then I can go back and I can refigure them, okay? So that's the fire fund. So if we look at the next page, Fund 403, which is our fire apparatus fund, we have a $100,000 proposed levy in there, and this fund is accumulating cash in order to purchase your fire engine in 2027, which is going to be about $1.3 million. And so what the goal was to take some cash and some bonding to pay for the truck so that it's not all bonded, okay? So that's why we would be accumulating about $300,000, and, you know, 200,000 of that is going to go to using cash to pay for that fire truck. And so in the balancing process and in reducing the levy and rebalancing all the funds, what I had to do was increase those bond proceeds by 100,000, so it was 700,000 now. Okay, and that is just to maintain that fund balance over time. So there, in this fund, there may be an opportunity to reduce some of these future levies, depending on what your future capital needs are.
Well, for that fund, I mean, it was 60,000 in 2024. Now, it was 100,000 this year. And currently, it's got $190,000 in there right now. But the $1.3 million for that new truck, we paid partial payment of that. I think the total outstanding on that's $700 something, 750 or seven something.
No, it's higher than that.
Oh, no, yeah.
Thought the money
thought
was
we paid that-
150,000 now.
We paid 117,000, which then just reduced it just under $1 million.
But let's back up 1 second. In the previous meeting, you had small equipment that you needed money for, that was gonna come out of this capital fund. And now that's not really, in this picture, not being illustrated.
Well, you've got that, Liz, you've got that projection in here somewhere, of the stuff for the fire.
Correct.
Would you direct the other city councilmen?
You've moved it to a
people
different place?
that one?
Correct. So
Okay.
it's my understanding with the contracted fire service
Oh.
that
The next page, here.
yeah, if you go 2 pages, so it's my understanding with the contracted fire service is that
If it's this one.
none of those contracted revenues are to go for any kind of large capital equipment. And so in the contracted service, fire service fund, that's Fund 402,
Okay, from our,
right, that's where the other pieces of equipment are, that's where the
gonna purchase the
PPE, the
stuff for them.
SCBA's
Try to.
hose replacement is included in Fund 402.
okay, thanks. That I just answered that. I needed,
Okay.
because it was talked about in a different place before.
Before the contract with Blue Hill was set, well, they don't want to pay for buildings or big apparatus, but they will pay for turnouts, hose, just replacement kind of stuff. We take some of the revenue from there. We also use some of the revenue from there for wages, but of course, because of the way the contract is and the fact that the run total for Blue Hill went down last year, going down $5,000.
You know, what we should do is show up to their annual meeting. Do take an amendment from the floor for their levy. Like the library used to come here.
Okay.
To give $5,000 more to Baldwin
I
for the
think,
fire.
for all of these things in the fire fund, I think that makes sense, including the 402.
Okay.
That's,
Yeah, I probably would want to vote on each levy,
and we will once we have it all nailed down.
determine what amounts we're going to put in there.
Okay, so that would then bring us to,
Let's go to the Road and Bridge Fund. And so the Road and Bridge Fund, that levy went from 800,000 to 500. This is our fund 275. And we have capital expenditures in here. We've got, in 2026, we've got approximately 4.2 million in road costs, issuing about $4 million in bonds, and then we are accounting for future debt service on that one. And so here, the balance is going from about $1,072,000 approximately at the end of 2026 is estimated to about $746,000 at the end of 2020. And so if you look at, I'm sorry, these in order. If you go 4 more pages down, you can see the Road and Bridge CIP. It's the page that looks like this.
Yeah, last page.
And so these capital items are being funded through the Road and Bridge Fund. And so all the reconstruction and the reclamation is coming from the Hawkinson and Anderson memo, where your preferred option was option 2. And so we have bonding that is supporting the reconstruct and the reclamation, and then we have cash that we're paying for the microsurfacing and the signing. And so those are the capital items that are going through.
But I mean, we had 800,000 in there, now it's 550.
Correct.
I mean, that's the most used fund in there. We have engineering, that's almost $300,000 currently for 2024.
This year because of the 100th Street.
Correct, most of
297
it.
Project,
Yep,
but other than if we continue on that, there'll be some additional expenses, but it's not like we're every year going to be doing that much engineering. Especially if we just get into, microsurface is gonna be smaller bits and chunks.
it's actually gonna be larger.
In engineering,
No,
that's my point, it'd be less engineering dollars in those projects in the future years.
I just think 550,000 is way low.
So, then, Joan brings up something. Well, MSA funding. So when we do that, there's probably 200,000. There's an engineering fees that we have incurred that are going to be hopefully at some point. Now, I'm told the only time that can happen, what triggers that to be able to happen, is when we actually let the bids engineering costs, legal costs, let's call them soft costs. For that. So how would that actually fit in? Technically, if we let this project out, let the bid whatever in 26, not sure that that's necessarily going to happen because of the anomalies of the project. If we did, then track that here. Moving forward, and service will be able to So there's a few things going on here. So if we look at the Road and Bridge CIP, I don't know which of these streets are MSA streets.
Yeah, currently it's 143,000 we have in MSA money, I believe is what we,
for maintenance.
yes.
So there are 143,000.
Correct. So I have the MSA maintenance in the general fund. That's at 135,000.
Okay, so that 135,000, whatever, that is in the general fund at 790, that, so are you saying that it should come out of the general fund, any MSA?
Well, I think the real question is does this microsurfacing, does that come under the definition of MSA maintenance? So, because right now we've
Portion
got,
that was done this year would, yes.
so we've got it going into two different spots. We've got the revenue coming into the general fund, but we've got the expenditures going in the road and bridge fund. And so what would happen is either one of two things would have to happen. Those expenditures, the 210, would have to get folded into the general fund, offset by the 135,000 in the revenues, or those revenues of 135,000 gets taken out and put into the road and bridge fund. Right? And so if you do that, either way, you're gonna have a levy impact on the general fund.
Because it doesn't meet the 68%.
Because we've got the revenues and the expenses going into two different spots. Okay,
So, for bookkeeping purposes, why would we not take? Put that directly toward?
yeah, we could, I mean, I can realign that, but what I'm saying is that if I take that 135,000 out of the general fund, but I don't, as a revenue, but I don't have an expenditure that's coming out, that affects the fund balance. So that fund balance is not gonna be the 535 anymore, it's gonna be more like 400. So it would be proper for me to align the revenue and the expenditure where it's gonna go. I just need to filter through what's gonna happen with the.
And correct me if I'm, Mr. Mayor, correct me if I'm wrong, Liz, is the capital maintenance is also in the general fund? Because I think it's Capital Project Fund 401 on the cash balance sheet.
That Fund 401 is its own fund.
Because I remember some part of the road and bridge was put into the general fund. Because we have 275, which is street capital, that currently is $823,000.
Yeah, so we moved the road type project, the road type expenditures that you would typically see in a general fund, we moved that to the general fund, which would include like that kind of thing got moved to the general.
That increase to the 68% fund balance? I guess if the salaries and things for snow plowing comes out or goes to the roads.
Because again, this is, what we're doing is that when we had the account structure recoding, what we're doing is we're aligning you to best practices for cities. And so the way that your accounts are set up now complies with the best practices for cities. So you typically, cities don't have a road bridge fund, but we fought for it, right? And so the expenses that are going through here are mostly going to be your capital. So what I'm saying is that, I'm not saying this very well, but, so what I'm saying is that I need to go back and take a look at this, and I need to realign where this MSA maintenance goes. And I need to figure out what happens to the ending fund balance.
Mayor, Liz, so you said most cities don't have a road and bridge fund. Does that come out of the general fund, all those expenditures and revenues? Fund normally then, or is it?
So, yeah, so what would normally happen is that you would have a capital fund, which is how your road and bridge fund is acting now, in that it accounts for your street projects. So streets that would be accounted for in your capital project fund. And the regular road maintenance costs, like, you know, the snow plowing and paying for public, that gets.
Okay, all right. So we just have a road and bridge fund that's,
Salt too comes out of there, the salt and sand.
Yeah, so, and that would normally, under most other cities, be come out of the general fund. Just the normal, like the salt and sand and wages and all that would come out of the general fund for most other cities. That's, okay, I just wanted to clarify that.
Speaking to our past, all of it came out of the road and bridge, the snow plowing and everything. So now, Tom, it would be like the 800,000 part of it, the actual snow plowing, the wages is just being shifted up into general fund where it's coming out. And I would think the best practices probably would have part of it be with the wages and everything and all the benefits and all of them costs. Makes sense for them to all be in that account instead of having a pool of people here and a pool of people there. That's why that would be there. And then like you keep referring to as capital projects or whatever. So the generic old term for township, road and bridge, but it was just a capital fund for projects for cities prior to them allowing them to call it a road and bridge or whatever. So now our road and bridge is purely for projects.
Correct, so this 550 is,
Which helps us with having a stronger general fund
For bonding.
set up. So I don't see an issue with that. A relief. It may simplify, it actually simplifies it now. When we talk about road and bridge dollars, we're talking about project dollars, not, because we used to always, when we're talking about carryover, we had to worry about snow plowing, you know, going into the winter and then how bad of a winter we had and where June comes for payments.
So I just want to be clear because we will have. I was prepared that I was.
Because you have the receipts of the MSA maintenance in the general fund now, she was gonna take it out of the fund, but we're talking about changing that. So when these payments come up, she wants to know where to take them from.
well, and if that was 140, then this and this line. Number, the expenditure would be there.
Yeah, so yes, the microsurfacing should go out of the general fund and go against the MSA funds of 143,000. And then I need to go back and refigure this by taking those microsurfacing and the signage out of the road and bridge fund and put it into the general fund, and then figure out what happens to the fund balance.
So Liz, how much money do we have allocated in that fund for snow plowing, maintenance wages, salary, salt, sand? Am I missing?
I think the other 250 from the 550 would make it.
Because the general fund got increased from 590,400 to 790,400.
I think some other things came out of it. So, we had talked about 800,000, so, and that was in the preliminary. So roughly 250.
Yes, it got
Well,
reallocated, yep.
there was a little reduction, whatever, to get to 10%. 5% overall, but then what was left of. Just got to go into the general. I think the answer to the question is 200. Or if we still had confusion. You know what I mean? Projects. More dollars that was. As I recall, over all of these years, whatever, to get us through snow plowing season. Fuel and all of that. About 120,000. So literally in our old practices, about 120,000 of it was snow removal. Everything else could then go to.
And that would be all out of the general fund going forward.
Everything but the projects.
Yeah.
But then with the MSA money as well, the 143.
Yeah, so the MSA is in the general fund. I just need to move the expenditures to the general fund. And then I need to take a look at how that filters down to the ending fund balance. Because obviously I'm moving more expenditures than there are revenues. 1,000 worth of expenditures, but we only have 135,000 revenues to offset that. So we're gonna have a net decrease in the general fund. So that's what I mean when I say I have to filter through what happens to the general fund, and then I have to balance it out again.
Okay, and would need to do that before we can look at what the real balances are. I mean, well, before we do any approvals or whatever. Okay, how long would you think to do that?
So if I have direction to keep the levy at the 1,936,000 for your final, I can rebalance this out. If you wanted to reduce it more than the 1,936,000, then I would need to know what that is, and we would need to look at the impact, and then I would need to rebalance it. So again, I would remind you that the 1,936,000 is a $37 increase, $37 impact on a single-family home.
Is that like a $300,000 house or?
That's a.
404, it says right there, 404, 300.
Yep.
What are the wishes of the council?
So are we, so let me understand, let's go through this. General fund is gonna be 790,400. Road and bridge,
Other funds to bring it back to. Correct?
and the fire fund is gonna go from 275 to 240, what I'm hearing.
That's, Liz, you said two different things. If we don't change the final fund balance, then you can just reconfigure, but if we reduce it, then you have to do a little more. Is that my understanding?
Yeah, so what would happen with the fire fund is if we reduce it by the 40,000, we are really cutting into that ending fund balance. And there would need to be additional levies in the fire fund in the future in order to keep that fund balance up. So what's happening is that the fund balance would go from the 88,000 to 3,300 in 2029. So it's taken a dive, right? And so in order to fix that, we would need to increase the levy in the future. So it's always a give and take, right? It's always, do you decrease the levy now to increase the levy later based on what your needs are? Or do you balance it out?
I'd rather decrease it now, in my opinion, because we have a $49 million referendum November 4th that people are gonna be voting on.
Worst part about that, I know exactly where you're going, but the worst part about that is next year they're gonna be doing I think ultimately we have done a darn good job. What we really had originally was preliminarily agreed to 15% increase.
So the numbers that you read off to us earlier and then totaled 1,936,000, right?
Correct.
That represents a what change in the
10.15%.
10.15? And we've made note about the general fund's balance. And then what you said about the fire fund, what that ends up doing. And the reason why that's each year after year, it would cut down into the carryover and eliminate the carryover down to being little to none.
Correct.
And then we'd have to have a healthy balance, have to play catch up and levy additional dollars. The only thing I think we can always talk about here though, but some like the capital fire, the $100,000, we're talking about for the next 2 years levying $100,000 to have some tape to buy down that truck and make the bond less. Is that something that we need to do right now this year for 226? Do we need to do that? I've learned that the equipment that was very important is being covered through the revenue, some of the contract revenue. But I mean, that's an area where we can play with a little bit. We don't ultimately have to do that. That is a spot that we can make shift money or
We have
cut money.
190,000 in there right now.
The only thing I'll say is whether the city council wants to make bond for full amounts of everything or not bond for full amounts, and that's up to the city.
Well, when we look at $1 million bond, let's say, we're looking at probably $4,000 to $5,000 in bonding fees, those types of things.
So, yeah, so the offset, if you decrease the cash, obviously, then you're gonna have to increase the bonding. And with the bonding, you're gonna have bonding costs and you're gonna have future. So if, you know, obviously, if, it's just like buying a home, right? So if you put more money down on a home, you borrow less, your payments are less.
And that was the original purpose of having that $100,000.
There isn't any other smaller trucks that are gonna come up in 2-3 years that,
Well,
Would all
in
suddenly
the
need-
CIP that came down when we did this, the CIP was, had all the apparatus and the replacement times on it. There's some of the smaller trucks are there, but there's some money in there right now. I don't believe there's anything that, we're gonna try and make everything work over there as long as we can. I think everybody is understanding that we're get a new engine in a couple of years. And,
Well, and I've always thought that if, let's just say, in the future, once we had that engine, would we continue?
and we may not need to. I think that's a,
And then the question for me would be, did, for how long? How many dollars are we gonna take out of pockets? Hold.
well, we're already holding $1 million in us.
I know. And we're.
So if you wanted to look at the fire apparatus fund, if you wanted to look at Fund 403. Again. We've got a levy of 100,000 in 2026, and that's to provide some cash, pay towards the engine. We've got a command, I believe, tender in 2029 for which we're paying cash, and so we've got future levies of 275,000 to going up to 450,000. Now, there's an option. It's not gonna help for your pay 26 taxes, but there's an option to reduce those future levies into bond for that piece of equipment. So it's always, there's always the trade-off, right? So how much do you wanna pay in cash versus how much do you need to bond?
and a new tender, and that tender 3 over there is the 96 that got rebuilt. So a new tender, which can be a tender engine, would be, they're running right now about 500,000, 600,000. So that was one of the reasons why this thing got put up to that. Again, we can bond for it, but, you know, We're gonna be bonding a lot.
Well, at the time, we're gonna decide how many dollars of this.
Right.
Literally, it's a conversation we have every year.
Right.
You know about purchases. So, well, if we told you then that could be reduced. We also know that Mr. Case believes there's roughly 35,000 number that might, that could help you with the transfers necessary to micro C, the larger expenditures. And we still got the million.
Are you, I just want to make sure are you saying to take those out, not transferring them to the general fund?
Well, we know that if we give Liz carte blanche to switch this around, and send that back and we'll go forward.
Right.
The question is, do we want to reduce it more?
Yes, I would like to reduce it more. If you're asking me, you're polling me.
Who asked you? No, I'm kidding.
I would, yeah, I was planning on reducing it as well.
And so, and I, coming into this meeting, I had thought that as well, and then that would come out of this capital.
Yeah, that,
Literally, because we have some concern.
I do agree with Liz's recommendations about the fund balances and trying to keep up with them and how we're better understanding on the road
If we took it out
money
of the
too.
capital fund fire, and we took, how much are we looking for? I think 3%, 2%, around an 8 or 7.
I think if you break it down to 240 for fire fund, say 75,000 for the capital fire.
I'd be okay with dropping the capital fire to 50,000 on top, go to 50, 240 and 50. And I think there's enough, because there is 193 in there.
190.
Yeah. Whatever's in there, and then you're adding the 50, will be in that 200,000 range, which I was thinking 2 to 250 was a good number to have in there anyway. That'll work. And
Isn't
then
the
next year we can revisit it and see where we're at on that one, but what would you say?
She wanted to drop that.
Liz, the fire capital looks to me at the end of 25 should be up around 250. So I'm seeing that right?
What page you looking at?
It currently has 190, but there's payments to come in yet.
For the fire?
25.
Okay, so let's
Your page 4, the bottom of 25, you've got 250. That's after we receive the second half of the taxes.
correct.
So right now, you're seeing 190 in the actual account. You just said 190, we got 190. Well, actually, if you have 250 at the end of the year.
Yes, for your second half taxes. I would agree.
So if we put anything in there for next year, it's over and above the 250.
Right, but I think we should put something in there. That's why I said.
Well, I wouldn't zero the fund out, because I don't think it's a good idea to zero the fund out, because then when it
What'd you
comes
say,
back another year-
50,000?
I said 50,
Writing this down.
so 25 below that,
And then how much is in the fire fund now?
5 below that, 50 below
Right, no, it was, Tom had said 75, I said down to 50, which would be
What are we having in the fire fund then, the actual fire fund? You said
240.
Okay, so if you make those changes,
And then what, the special revenue down to 25. If we're gonna change them, might as well drop that to 25.
I would suggest 15 on that.
I would.
That's not zero, that's a long ways from
But
zero.
I think,
I think my insurance premiums went up a couple $100, so at 2% off of that, that should start kicking some more money in there. What are we receiving, about 80-some thousand dollars from that fund?
I thought we got 80,000 was what, they sent it out.
Is there a report from Para or somebody that what we need, how much we need to be funding that to keep
You
up
don't have to
with?
fund it at all, right now it's funding itself, but.
So then why are we, cause I'm just go back in history before you were
I
on the
understand.
fire department. When we had the old setup, I remember we had to have it 105% funded.
Well, you have to be over 100%.
Okay, so whatever, it was over 100%.
We usually try to keep.
And when we kicked in, we had motions on the floor at the annual meeting, and we started the special revenue fund, and it fluctuated through the years.
Right,
And we had times where it was like, well, we wanna get this built up. We get it built up, and then there would be a request to increase the retirement, and then it would shrink it, and we would be closer to the minimum, and then we would add more money, and it'd go and go and go. So, I mean, the goalpost moves over time, every
Right.
time you do an increase on the retirement because of competition. But do we need to fund it at this level, at this time?
I'll just give you the example, when it was 15,000, that's $600 per firefighter. $600 per firefighter. And then from the floor, at the last time we had a town hall meeting, the annual meeting, somebody from the floor, not from the fire department, requested it to go 25. That was the last request from the public, to go to 25. That's why we've left it at 25.
And who was most of the people at the annual meeting?
Well, it wasn't a firefighter that did it. I have no idea.
People voting were firefighters though.
Yeah.
So,
I don't, at this point in time, to leave that in. And I'll say it, and I'll say it again, you know what I mean? This is one way. They're paid on call firefighters. This $25,000 is gonna go directly to them, directly to those who want to put the time in, whatever.
how many firefighters we have right now?
33.
You were gonna increase it at one time, what happened to that?
We talked about 36.
It's increased to 40, but I have to get people
Well,
to,
now that's $757 a firefighter.
So, and to me, you know, if nothing else, to say thanks for the.
Well, it's not saying, we're saying thanks, what it is, it's a fund, and it needs to be funded to meet when retirements come through. That a program through the insurance premiums we get paid, check goes in for that, that's covering the lion's share of it. This is to make sure that we're not deficient, so that we meet it. What I'm saying is at times, it's been overfunded. But then when it's overfunded, then that's when the goalpost gets moved, and then you go, well, shit, we've got it at 180%, time to increase the retirement, and then it goes back down to closer to that point. What I'm asking is, how does that 80,000 that came in, how is that over the time as it grows there? There should be some kind of formula or something that tells us at the 33 members and the age of your group and there should be a forecast of how much should need to be going in there to keep that thing. I'm not just gonna keep asking the taxpayers to just throw more money in there for, that may not need to be there. There already may be enough money there to cover what we've already chewed off with what we have coming in.
can I answer that? So in July, Joan, you all got the revenue forecast from Para. It was in the notes. She sent it out to everybody and it has all that information in there.
Well, it'd be good to have right now in this discussion.
You wanna have,
Yeah, just go, you can just.
I want to make an informed decision on
But
how much to
the-
put into
the-
this.
The other question is, one of the other questions is, okay.
I recall the last we had
So,
heard. And
Well, we
now that-
recently made an increase to it this year.
Now that,
So if that's reflected in it,
now that para,
Are you talking the 4,500 that went to
this
4,800?
is what the, 2025, that's what the state fire aid went in there, 55.
okay,
The, currently, and however you want to take a look at it, currently, the Baldwin firefighters' retirement is less than Princeton, is less than Zimmerman, is less than Elk River. And we're going on more calls in both Princeton and Zimmerman. I'm,
we're also a much younger fire department
yeah.
than
Yeah.
Princeton. or Elk River.
Right, both of those have a much larger, body of money sitting in there than we do. The other thing is, so we'll have a firefighter leaving this year, 22 years. He will get about 110,000 before taxes. So after 22 years, he's gonna probably end up with about $90,000 check for putting his body through that and getting up every night. However you want to vote on it, that's up to you. I'm just,
I'm not.
I know,
This is what, I'm not about that. You got a current benefit level shows here 4,500. Okay, so the, right down below there, it says we're 176%.
fire state aid ratio, that's not.
Oh, that's not the, okay, well, here's our liability
That's
here.
just a valuation, so yeah.
But there's our
That's the
Accrued
assets,
liability.
So we have that's what the liability.
surplus. Our
Yeah,
surplus is
200.
231,600.
If you go down, there's a different place where it has the percentages. It was at 118%. It was 121%, it was 118 before. The city council approved it to go to $4,800 for next year. 12%, I cannot remember it right now, but Joan has that figure somewhere.
Okay, thanks. That's enough. I'll leave it be. Because we're not at a higher number. If it was way up 150+%, then
Yeah,
I would ask
and
to
I would agree
reduce
with
it.
that, but we're not at that. And the goal was only to get it to 5,000, so we at least were in the ballpark of our neighbors. After that, that'll be a future debate whether there should be any more. And the state para limits it at 7,500. Cannot be higher than 7,500 anyway.
So Liz, we're at 1,850,000, is that what you have? Current number after $86,000 reduction.
Well, one thing that I need to do yet, though, remember, is I need to move some of those microsurfacing costs to the general fund to figure out how that balances out. So I don't know that we necessarily I would not be comfortable saying that, you can reduce by that's 75,000 talking about. So reducing,
Took 1,000 from the
yep,
special revenue, reduce capital fire from 100 to 50,000, and then capital fire fire fund, from 275 to 240, is what I have, is that correct?
correct. So then what I need to do is I need to go back and I need to rebalance that out to see how that's going to offset. And it, at this point, it really isn't a reduction from the 1,936,000 because I'm moving $200,000 into the general fund. And so that's going to decrease that general fund balance, the fund balance that we were talking about. And so if I was able to move that 85,000 back into the general fund and see how that balances out, we're not really talking about a decrease from the 1,936,000. So this is moving pieces around and it isn't necessarily decreasing.
So it's-
You were
you're
approaching
talking
it like
about
we're-
moving the 86,000 up into the general fund.
We're talking just reducing the overall from 10.15 to lower it.
Yep, I understand that, but then the piece that needs to happen though is I need to take the microsurfacing cost that is in the road and bridge fund and put it into the general fund. And so if you take a look at the first page, if I move $200,000 of expenditures into that fund, which is not sitting there right now, then your ending fund balance is 335,000 instead of the 535. And
Can we take money from the road and bridge to the general fund, take 50,000 and shift that instead? We would like to, we're talking about cutting the actual levy dollar amount when he's at his question.
yep. I
But
understand that.
if you take from this 550 and move, say, 50 of it up to general fund to help offset the
Because
microsurfacing.
That would be what those
The MSA maintenance?
let's just call it a deficiency. Moving 200 into the general, offsetting that by 143. So there's a deficit, obviously, and take 50,000 road and bridge and move it into the general fund. From the reductions that
Yeah, general fund to
we. including the
840.
reduction on levy.
Well, the MSA is already in the general fund.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So the 135 is still sitting there, but the expenditure is not. That's the rub.
Okay, yeah, so you're saying that it'll affect the end balance for the year is what you're getting at.
Correct.
Okay, for the carryover. But what I'm saying is from the get-go, let's just take 50,000 from the 26 levied road and bridge, take 50,000 and turn the general fund into 840,000. As partially offsetting this payment that's gonna be coming out of general fund. Well, it's gonna have an impact, but we might not have the general, I would like to see what that would look like, I guess.
Yes, and I can do that.
We're gonna have a take 3 budget meeting.
Well, once we've gone through this, it won't take us much next year. We'll just be looking at how we did and where we plan on doing the following year and making adjustments. This is, we're going through what you call growing pain. But our institutional knowledge, thanks to Liz, will be growing exponentially.
Keep browbeating because
And Liz,
I
if
think
you,
it's working.
if you redo this, park fund,
Yep, no more money to the park fund.
got trails coming.
Yeah, but don't you have some park dedication fees? Start applying to some new projects?
That gets put into that.
I said new projects. You heard me say new projects?
I was following you.
No, I mean new to you.
Yeah, right. Okay, well, let's see here, that, kind of stymies us.
6 is adjourned.
So,
Until we hear from you.
7 is adjourned.
yes, so what I'm hearing the direction is to move an additional 50,000 from the road and bridge to the general fund and to try to decrease the overall levy by 85,000 by reducing the fire fund from.
86.
Yes. Reducing the fire fund from 275 to 40, reducing the capital fund fire from 100 to 50, and reducing the special revenue from 26 to 25. This is the
Correct.
direction I'm hearing?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to have that be what, just so it's official.
These numbers. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion. All those in favor, signify by saying
Aye.
aye. Don't have it on here to set a budget meeting. Have this, truth and taxation. We're gonna have to lay this out.
Our next meeting is the 3rd, regular meeting?
Sometime that week. I don't wanna have it on the same night. So, is it 4 or a 5?
The election's the 4th, I believe.
Yeah, the election would be the 4th, can't be that. So it'd have to be the 5th. Set that as a meeting.
How many hours is it gonna have
Actually,
notice?
it would need to be the 6th.
6.
I was gonna say, I thought you need
3 days.
They have to be, yeah, they need 3.
So it'd be the 10th? Oh, no, the 10th, we got a meeting.
Can't that be a friendly to my last motion?
I have a meeting that night, but I
Yeah,
can,
with us.
I can prepare the information and I can send it to Joan.
Can't have it on the 6th.
3 days posting.
You need 3 days posting, you wouldn't.
We can use the day.
How about the following week? What date in December is the truth and tech?
First. Because November 10th, we have the workshop, the maintenance workshop. See,
Veterans Day on
the office is closed.
12 would be the.
You don't have planning? No? Planning meetings?
Nope, it would be the 19th.
Wednesday, 12th would work.
So we will set, please put this on the calendar. That's budget. And then I think what we would need to do is a motion to table number 5 and number 6 on this. Do that.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Motion
I'll make a motion to table proposed 2026 levy.
carried. We did vote.
Can you do both in one motion?
We can.
You should have had adjourn right wrapped in it then.
Make a motion to adjourn then.
I'll try that on you another night. Yeah, I'll second it.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned. Gordon, Mike.
Mr. Mayor? Yes. Now that the meeting's over, can I ask a question? It's a line item question on your budgets. It's all in the one